The world is changing big time, and you might be noticing this in your circumstances, such as your career, a love interest, or trying to build financial security, because everything's shifting so quickly and rapidly. And in this video, I'm going to share some key points that will help you to navigate this rapidly changing scenario with less stress and greater ease. I'm going to be using the Moon card from the tarot, as well as some other tarot cards, in order to support what I'm speaking about, so that you'll be able to see and make connections for yourself. There's so much polarization going on, division between the left and the right, between this side and that side. It's illustrated really well in this picture. Let's take a look at it. So here you see the Moon card with the two figures, the light figure and the dark figure. And if you've ever seen Star Wars, where it ends up being fighting your own, it's like fighting your own shadow self, your own self that you're struggling with. And that's what the case is here. But on the world stage and in our lives, we think it's that person's the dark and we're the light. And the other person thinks that they're the light and you're the dark, type of thing. Okay, so there's a conundrum here in this, and they both believe that they're protecting this rose. Right now, I'm currently aligned with so-called progressive values. That's the liberals in Canada. I just can't align with the values of the populist style really far to the right. But I also don't agree with when things swing too far to the left. And that's the thing. The darkness doesn't care. It can manifest through either the right or the left. Quickly, before we get to the next section, I have some free resources for anybody getting started with tarot. One is on tarot keywords, and the other one is my free guide, 5 Steps to Learn Tarot Fast. Check the description below. So right now I want to introduce another idea into this video. It's called the Pendulum Theory. When I was in high school, I had a really interesting history teacher. He was a World War II vet, a veteran of World War II. He had a very thick Scottish accent, and he was a bit of a rebel for the education system. And he taught us something that stuck with me ever since, called the Pendulum Theory, where anything that swings over to the left ultimately will eventually have to swing over to the right to find balance. And this sort of equilibrium is always trying to find itself. It sounds like it's from Hermeticism in a way. That whole idea of the pendulum theory brings to mind another tarot card, the Wheel of Fortune, where it teaches us that life is in cycles, like seasons, and what goes up must come down, and what is down will eventually come back up. So the world is now a more dangerous place with more hatred and division. Many people are in these various echo chambers on the internet where their bias is fed more and more and more, and it becomes part of a very strong ego identification. And demonic forces, you could say, are expressing through some of these hateful comments, angry comments that you see on social media. I don't mean demonic. When I say demonic, I don't mean in some dogmatic sense. I mean it in a sort of an old school occult, mystic philosophical way of putting it. Forces that are wantonly destructive, based on psychological fear. So both sides believe that they're justified. Both sides believe they are protecting the rose. Back to what I said earlier. Who's actually protecting the rose? Who is aligned with truth, justice, compassion, and wisdom? I'll give the answer a bit later. I still need to unpack a few more things first. There is a prescription for healing this division, and it's expressed in tarot by 2 cards in particular, the High Priestess and the Chariot. Notice the 2 poles in both of them. The poles are easy to see in the High Priestess here, and with the Chariot, you see the 2 Sphinx, one gold, one silver, expressing the polarity. Interestingly enough, the gold, to me, seems like the sun or solar, and the silver is lunar or the moon. And the High Priestess in this case is about receiving intuitive insight. The High Priestess is also strongly associated with the moon. This insight comes from deep within yourself, this intuitive insight, from beyond the thinking mind. In order to access it, you either need to be still or to be doing dishes or taking a shower. At least that's my experience quite often. She's also about allowing and accepting. The Chariot is about will, This is about bringing the conflicting forces within you into alignment so that you can move forward and steer through life. We need both these qualities in order to deal with our lives and to co-create a better world, not only for ourselves, but for everyone. By strengthening our will and self-discipline, and also paying attention to our intuitive messages, we can begin to bring the conflicting elements of our personalities into greater alignment. Because this inner conflict is what's being played out in your life circumstances and on the world stage. You are the world, and the world is you. Krishnamurti. The moon card in tarot is also strongly connected with deception and illusion. Think of how you see things at nighttime, or how you approach things at nighttime. Things aren't quite as clear. Sometimes your mind goes into strange places, that type of thing. I always tell the story of where the person's walking along the road at night and they see what appears to be a snake at the side of the road. But when they come back the next day under daylight, it's just a piece of rope. And this connects with disinformation, all the disinformation on the internet. Like, that's fake news. No, that's fake news. Of course, when it comes to the media, social media or otherwise, there's always going to be some kind of spin. And it's good to be aware of what that might be. But there are outright lies. And I'm sure that you're watching this, you have seen some of these lies been exposed. An example that I want to use that came recently was Canada's recently elected Prime Minister, Mark Carney. His wife, in a speech in public, said, "Un Canada for," which was mistranslated by people opposing the type of views that Mark Carney's aligned with, or the kind of values he's aligned with. And they took it to say that she said, "We're going to make Canada poor." The thing is, in Canada, when people are in public, quite often they alternate in a public speech between French and English. So she said, "Un Canada for." For in French means strong, kind of a bit of a roll of the R and a soft T. So people heard it as poor. They wanted to hear it that way, probably. And the actual translation into English is Canada strong. Un Canada for, Canada strong. And Canada strong was her husband's campaign slogan. So that's all she was saying. And this went viral on TikTok, and many people were believing it. It just doesn't make any sense. It's so ridiculous. Even if that was the intention, why would anybody say that or admit it? But it wasn't. It was simply she was simply saying her husband's slogan and, the passion of Canada strong because of all the things going on in the world right now. So we need to unhook from the drama, take breaks, also educate ourselves, be aware of our own biases and what biases or spin might be coming to us, and be willing to really use our discernment as best we can. Because it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get more powerful and more disinformation out there. Okay, so who is protecting the rose? We all are. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants prosperity, security, freedom, health, even though it's from the wrong premise or the wrong starting point. And here I'm going to bring in a little bit of Kabbalah. Don't worry if you don't know Kabbalah. It's a metaphysical system. I'll probably make some videos about it coming up. But for now, just know that one of the emanations of spirit, I'll just call it that for now, is called Hod, H-O-D. And it rules or is associated with the intellect, with books, with learning, and some other things. But it can be very clever, very, very clever and sophisticated. So people can make very sophisticated and clever arguments, but they're ultimately wrong because they had the wrong starting point. And that's the shadow side of Hod, as well as it relates to the disinformation that's causing a lot of this conflict that we're looking at when we're looking at this moon card in particular. So we need to call out evil when we see it. If we're a quiet kind of person, we don't necessarily have to be active about it, but we need to recognize evil when we see it and take whatever steps are appropriate. The thing is, there's a conundrum here. There's a stalemate. And this relates to the Two of Swords card from tarot. That stalemate is that both sides think the other side is the evil side. But don't worry, it will work out. I'm going to explain how later. For now, we need to accept that even if we cannot for the life of us understand how that person sees things the way they do, that is how they see it. We don't need to agree. The more you resist something, the more it persists. This is a universal principle. Another factor making this even more complex is that more darkness seems to be entering the world. Aleister Crowley discusses this in his description of the Aeon card in the Book of Thoth. The time for the birth of an aeon seems to be indicated by great concentration of political power, with the accompanying improvements in the means of travel and communication, with a general advance in philosophy and science, with a general need of consolidation in religious thought. It is very instructive to compare the events of the 500 years preceding and following the crisis of approximately 2,000 years ago with those of similar periods centered in 1904 of the Old Era. It is a thought far from comforting to the present generation that 500 years of dark ages are likely to be upon us. But if the analogy holds, that is the case. Fortunately, today we have brighter torches and more torch-bearers. If that sounds bleak, don't worry. Crowley was, like all of us, a flawed human being, as well as being a product of his time. The truth that he did get at was there is always an element of danger involved when giving birth. Another perspective that I personally really resonate with is from spiritual teacher Lester Levinson, who created the Sedona method. And the way he sees it is that this darkness or pain was submerged in the subconscious for centuries, where it couldn't be seen. And now it's actually coming up because humanity is evolving to a higher level. And the darkness is now coming up and therefore being projected into the world where we can now see it, where we can now deal with it, where we can have the opportunity to face it and to heal it. It always boils down to the same thing: love. Not sentimental love, but that feeling, that sense of knowing the connection with the web of life. All the world's indeed a stage, and we are merely players. Shakespeare. So the moon in tarot is about complexity, fears and uncertainty, fears coming to the surface, illusion. What do? 1. Work on our own healing through seeing how we often judge and resist without consciously thinking about it. 2. Continue to own our opinions, but give others the same freedom and right, even when we know we're correct. 3. Work on letting go of the resistance we feel towards people with opposing opinions. Remember, this doesn't mean we have to agree with them. It's on a feeling level that we let go. 4. Realize that if you choose to take action or voice your opinions, they will be more effective if you're actively working on healing your own pain and feelings of isolation and separation. Check out my video, How to Have Faith in Life and in Yourself, as well as links in the description box below for other resources. See you in another video.